On my right knee, my medial collateral ligament was once torn in half. And then I'm a walking miracle that I'm here.
Welcome back to Fit the Right Way. This is Dawnnie's Journey Part 2. We're going to break down exactly what fitness over 60 looks like.
So what would be a good starting point for someone who has been leading a somewhat sedentary lifestyle? Because 3 years ago, I got a job working on the computer. I'm on my break right now, but I work a 980, which means 9 hours a day on the computer. And what would be a good starting point? A couple of things I need to watch out for. In about 97, I was hit by a taxi. I was walking on the streets in New York and the taxi hit my thigh and I flew and landed in the street. And then on my right knee, my medial collateral ligament was once torn in half. And then I'm a walking miracle that I'm here. Oh, this hurts there, that hurts there, there's the front, there's the back. Blah. So I need to be very careful how I start and rebuild from sedentary to more mobile.
For most people, I recommend walking to start with. Just get up out of your chair and walk around a certain amount of time every day. It is what I call a low friction entry point, which means it's the simplest, easiest thing you can do. I mean, unless you've got a serious mobility issue, if you can't walk, we got other problems, right?
Yeah.
But I know you also shared with me that you think you have plantar fasciitis.
I don't even know. This is me Dr. Googling myself.
Right.
All I know is my heels hurt, and I was literally going a little woo on it. I Googled what organ is related to my hurting heels. I'm like, all of a sudden I'm diagnosing myself with something horrible. And that's the first thing that came up. I was like, oh, that's it. It's because I have too much weight on my heels. Okay. We better call Dr. Andrew.
Oh no, no, oh God. Okay, disclaimer time, folks. I am not a doctor.
No, he's not.
I do not purport to diagnose or treat any specific medical issue, disease, illness, or injury. That is
Well, good. I needed you to get your disclaimer out there. I'm joking because he pretends to be my therapist. Pretends.
I do. I'm a fake therapist on her channel too. I've actually have a background in counseling psychology. That was my master's program. I was going to
Well,
be a
that's cool.
therapist.
There you go.
Yeah, but I'm not licensed. I'm just a pretend therapist. So yeah, I'm not a doctor, and for specific medical issues, you should really talk to a doctor.
So I don't know if I have plantar whatever.
Yeah.
I just know my feet hurt.
There are some stretches you can do to address that. And they're really, really simple. They're just simple stretches. Basically, you put yourself up against a wall and you extend the leg that has the issue with the foot that has the issue behind you, and you kind of keep your knee straight, and you just kind of push it down into a runner's stretch.
Okay.
So if this is your foot and this is your ankle, right? This is dorsiflexion. Pushing against that, the Achilles tendon here is going to stretch a little bit in the other direction, and you just kind of lean into that, not so that it hurts. If it hurts, you're going too far. You should feel the stretch, you should feel the pressure, and you want to hold it there for as long as you're comfortable holding, and maybe just a little bit longer. The other thing they recommend for stuff like that are anti-inflammatories. But if it's a chronic condition, you don't want to chronically use anti-inflammatories. When I say that, I mean non-steroidal anti-inflammatories, aspirin, Tylenol, Aleve, all of that stuff. And you're not supposed to use those for more than 7 to 14 days in a row.
I got these things for my husband. I put them on the ground and I roll my heel on it barefoot while I'm sitting here, and this feels good.
Yeah, that's the third thing they recommend is rollering. They will often recommend rollering with a little frozen water bottle, because applying ice on and off for 15 minutes at a time can help bring some of that swelling down.
So I have a treadmill and I also have a half an acre of land, so I can walk around my backyard and track that. And I have a stepper thing that tracks how many steps you took on my iPhone, which I never look at, but I could do that. And then the times that I have been focused on eating less junk were when I was tracking my food, and I used to have a favorite app on my phone, and that app doesn't exist anymore. So I was wondering, do you have a favorite app? when it's written down and you notice that you had McDonald's 5 days in a row, it really points it out to you.
Absolutely. I use my Fitness Pal. I use it sporadically. I used to use it obsessively, like every day, all day, every meal, everything I put in my mouth, I logged.
Does it have a food tracker on it?
That's its primary function. My Fitness Pal's primary function is to track your meals and calories and your macros. And when I say
Okay.
macros, that means macro. For those of you who don't know, macros are macronutrients. They're divided into three categories: protein, carbohydrates, and fats are your three primary macronutrients. Most smartphones have something built into them. I downloaded my Fitness Pal from the Google Play Store, and I'm sure the
Okay, so I'll get that. My
Apple
Fitness
has one
Pal.
too. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
It's free. It's free with ads, and they're going to try to upsell you for all their premium functionality. Uh, but it does the
I'm
basic
spending
thing.
too much money already with all my
Yeah,
YouTube apps.
use the free stuff. And in the beginning, I'm not big on calorie counting in general for a couple of reasons. One, I don't think it's good for our heads. I don't think it puts us in a good headspace.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and two, which really should be number one, is nobody does it accurately, even with all these little app trackers. In fact, they have done studies on this that trained nutritionists who it's kind of their job to be able to figure this stuff out, do it accurately. Uh,
Hmm.
because we don't know what we're looking at. Unless you weigh your food every time, every bit of it separately for every meal, you're not really going to know how many calories you're putting in your body. And I don't recommend that either. If you have a real specific issue that requires you to weigh your food, fine. Your doctor says you should do that, fine. I don't like that approach. It's not, I don't think that's getting fit the right way. I think that's making you neurotic. So I don't specifically recommend that. Having said that, in the beginning, when you're first starting out, I think it's a good idea to track your meals just so you have an idea of what you're dealing with. You don't need to know exactly how many calories you're eating, but you have to kind of have a ballpark baseline of what you're dealing with. So if you relatively accurately track your meals for, say, a week, and at the end of the day you average it out and you look at it and you say, like, I'm eating 5,000 calories a day. I think that's a problem. You're going to want to tap that down. If you know that, like, the typical U.S. Department of whatever recommended daily allotment is 2,000 calories, is usually what they say, and I want to be doing 1,850, you're not going to be able to split that hair accurately, and I don't think that's really a particularly good mindset to be in anyway. That's for bikini models and and weightlifter and bodybuilders.
But I think
That's
it
that's
would
not
be
really what I'm
good.
doing here.
It would be good to remind me because I've seen a few of your videos where you talk about the importance of starting your day with protein and getting a certain amount of protein every day. So
Right.
I feel like tracking at least my water, my movement, and my protein would be great.
Yeah, yeah, that's generally a very good idea. So the the baseline recommendation uh, for protein intake is zero point 0.4 grams per pound of body weight. That is your baseline to make sure that you don't develop any chronic illnesses or organ dysfunction because of lack of protein. That's like, you need that to survive. If you're getting
And
less than that,
that's
you're probably going to get
per pound of goal weight, correct?
I have to look. I think that's actually per pound of body weight. That's your
Oh,
baseline, just so you don't get sick. Okay.
cool.
So if you want to build muscle, and which you can a little bit with there, but if you want to optimally have nutritional support to build muscle, and the other reason for this is because it just makes you feel fuller, and you're probably
Mm-hmm.
going to have generate less hunger signals, so you don't snack as much. Double that is usually the recommendation from the fitness community. So about zero point 0.8 grams of protein per pound of your goal weight. So I did a video on that. I'll link to it somewhere up here. You don't want to turn every meal into a math problem. Right?
Right.
Low friction entry point. Get a gram per pound. You're going to be fine. And that's probably more than you actually need. That's probably a little bit excessive. But it makes things simple. Not getting enough protein will cause your organs to steal protein from your muscles. So sarcopenia, which is muscle wasting, can actually be caused simply by not eating enough protein because your liver and your kidneys need and your heart need protein to replace tissue. So they're going, we're the priority here, okay? Looking ripped is not a biological imperative. Your heart beating and your kidneys working and your liver doing its thing is a biological imperative, and it's going to get those supportive nutrients wherever they can. Your nervous system requires calcium. You're not getting enough calcium, it's going to take it from your bones.
Oh.
Because that's not because you can stay alive and have weak bones. You can't stay alive and not have a functioning nervous system.
So
Okay,
calcium, protein,
yeah, calcium
water,
and
and
protein, those are
movement.
biggies. Yeah, micronutrients in general. So macronutrients are not a problem to get covered for most people, especially in the West, especially in America. Very few people are protein deficient. Our problems usually are a result of excess nutrition rather than insufficient nutrition.
I tend to be carb bread excessive
Yeah,
at my
yeah,
favorites. And then I'm so full with that, I'm like, I don't need any meat today.
right.
Or protein or so what is my homework, sir?
Watch the
for
next
my
video
week
to
one?
follow Dawnnie's journey. Like and subscribe. We're building a different kind of community here.